When my son invited me to Los Angeles to take care of me, I smiled. I packed my bags. I stepped into his fortress of glass and steel, and I waited. He thought I was a confused old man, ready to be locked away and forgotten. By the time the sun set, I had dismantled his entire life. Justice must be restored, and arrogance punished. If you're listening to this, subscribe to the channel, and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone in this crazy world. My name is Arthur Thompson, and this is the story of how my family reunion became a fight for my survival. The Los Angeles sun was brutal. It hammered the tarmac, making the air shimmer like water. I wiped sweat from my forehead. My heart felt tight in my chest, a strange mix of hope and anxiety. I'm Arthur, a retired government clerk from Ohio. My life was quiet, routine, built on the memories of my late wife, Mary. I hadn't seen my son, Ethan, in almost 3 years, not since he married Chloe and moved west. They were chasing dreams too big for the small town I gave him. The invitation arrived a month ago, a glossy card, heavy paper, embossed lettering, expensive. "Dad, come visit us in L.A., Ethan had written. "We want to show you our new home. We miss you." Chloe added a note too, surprisingly sweet. It felt like an olive branch. Years of silence. Ethan always too busy to call. Chloe looking through me at family gatherings as if I were invisible. Maybe it was finally ending. Maybe they realized family mattered. I clutched the small gift I'd brought, a wooden bird, hand-carved in my workshop back home, a robin. Mary loved robins. It wasn't much, not compared to the life they seemed to be living. But it was from the heart. I took a deep breath of the thick, smoggy air and climbed into the taxi. I gave the driver the address, a place high in the hills. I was ready to see my son. But something felt wrong, a cold dread I couldn't shake. As we drove, the city changed. The modest bungalows gave way to sprawling estates, high walls, iron gates, security cameras everywhere. Ethan had done well. He worked in finance, investments and portfolios. Complicated stuff. I never quite understood it, but I was proud of him. Proud even when his success seemed to push me further away. Even when it felt like a wall between us. We pulled up to the address. It wasn't a house. It was a fortress. Glass and steel. Stark white. Intimidatingly modern. It dominated the landscape. It looked expensive, and it looked cold. I paid the driver. The taxi pulled away, leaving me alone. I dragged my suitcase up the long, winding driveway. The gravel crunched loudly under my shoes. It like I was walking into another world. A world where I didn't belong. The silence hit me first. For a house this large, it was eerily quiet. No music, no chatter, nothing. Just the distant hum of the city below. I reached the front door. Massive, dark wood. I rang the doorbell. A deep chime echoed somewhere inside. I waited. Nothing. I rang it again. Still nothing. I checked my watch. I was right on time. Ethan knew when my flight landed. They were supposed to meet me at the airport. Where were they? I pulled out my phone. I called him. It went straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Ethan. Leave a message." The same cold, impersonal message I'd heard for years. Confusion started to bubble up. The anxiety turned sour. Had I gotten the day wrong? No. I checked the ticket in my pocket. Had something happened? An accident? My heart pounded harder. The hope drained away, replaced by a familiar ache. The ache of disappointment. Maybe this trip was a mistake. I sat down on my suitcase. An old man alone in a strange city, in front of a house that felt more like a museum than a home. The sun beat down on me. I felt foolish, stupid for hoping things could change. That's when I heard the shouting. "Hey, you there! Get away from that house!" I looked up, startled. A man was running across the neighboring lawn. No, not running. Sprinting. He was older than me. Maybe late 70s. Dressed in gardening clothes. His face was flushed red. It wasn't just exertion, it was panic. Pure terror. He reached me, breathless. His eyes were wide, darting back and forth. "You can't be here," he gasped, grabbing my arm. "You have to leave. Now." His grip was surprisingly strong. desperate. I stood up, confused and alarmed. I don't understand. My son, Ethan, he lives here. He invited me. No, you don't understand, the man insisted, shaking my arm. You need to run. Run away before it's too late. Late for what? I asked, trying to stay calm. His voice dropped to a frantic whisper. It chilled me more than the cold architecture of the house. These are terrible people. I pulled my arm away. Terrible people? What are you talking about? Ethan is my son. Chloe is his wife. What did they do? He looked over his shoulder nervously, afraid someone might hear us. He leaned in close. His breath was hot on my face. They didn't invite you here, Arthur, he said. The use of my name startled me. How did he know who I was? They invited you here, he continued, his voice shaking with urgency. To lock you up. I stared at him, speechless. The world seemed to tilt sideways. The bright California sun suddenly felt oppressive. Lock me up? I whispered. That's insane. Why would my son do that to me? Money, he spat. The word dripped with disgust. It's always money with them. I'm Robert Henderson. I live next door. He wrung his hands nervously. Believe me, I've heard things. Things they don't know I've heard. Through the vents. When they argue late at night, they scream at each other about the debt. My mind was reeling. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. This was Ethan, the boy I taught to fish. The teenager I stayed up late helping with algebra. Mr. Henderson, I said slowly, I appreciate your concern, but you must be mistaken. Ethan is a good boy. Ethan, Henderson scoffed, is not a boy. He's a shark. He looked me dead in the eyes. And that wife of his, Chloe? She's the one pulling the strings. They're greedy, Arthur. Greedy and ruthless. He paused, letting the words sink in. And right now, they're desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. He was about to show me just how desperate they were. Henderson pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. It looked like it had been retrieved from the trash. Smoothed out. I found this yesterday, he said, his voice urgent. Their lawyer was here. A slick guy. David Slattery. Drives a car worth more than my retirement. This was in their recycling bin. Look, I took the paper with trembling hands. It was a printout of an email. The subject line read, Finalizing the conservatorship strategy. My blood ran cold. I felt the world stop spinning. I looked closer. The name listed under proposed conservatee was mine. Arthur James Thompson. I felt dizzy. A conservatorship. That's what they did to people who couldn't take care of themselves. People who were old, sick, losing their minds. I don't understand, I whispered. My voice cracked. I'm perfectly fine. I manage my own finances. I live alone. I volunteer at the library. They know that, Henderson said urgently. But they're going to make sure the court doesn't. He leaned closer. They've been planning this for months. They bragged about how easy it would be, how they'd paint you as a confused old man, grieving his wife, unable to manage his affairs, a danger to himself. They were going to steal my life, my freedom, everything. But why? I choked out. The pain of the betrayal pierced my chest, a physical ache, sharp and suffocating. I don't have much money, just my pension, my life savings, and the house. The house, Henderson said, pointing a shaky finger. That's what they want. Your house back in Ohio is paid off, isn't it? I nodded numb. They want to sell it. They need the cash. Immediately. I didn't understand. They lived in a mansion. They seemed to have everything. They're drowning in debt, Arthur, Henderson explained, reading my mind. This house, the cars, the lifestyle, it's all a facade. It's all a facade. A house of cards. He lowered his voice even further. They borrowed money from the wrong people. A man named Marco. He's not a bank. He's dangerous. Marco, the name felt heavy. Ominous. And now they're leveraged to the hilt. Henderson continued. Marco, the banks, everyone is closing in. They are terrified. The magnitude of their deception hit me like a physical blow. The sweet invitation, the glossy card, the promises of reconciliation, it was all a lie, a trap designed to steal the little I had left. The legacy Mary and I had built over 40 years, and leave me to rot in some state facility. They planned to intercept you at the airport, Henderson said. His voice hurried. They wanted to control the situation from the moment you landed. Why didn't they? They got into a fender bender on the freeway. Hee. I saw them arguing with the other driver when they came back here briefly before heading out again. That's why they weren't here. They're on their way back now. He grabbed my arm again. You have to leave, Arthur. Before they get here. I looked at the email again. The cold, clinical language describing me as incompetent, my own son. How could he do this to me? The grief I felt for Mary was suddenly overshadowed by a new, sharper pain. The realization that my son saw me not as his father but as an asset. To be liquidated. I was paralyzed. Accept this horrific truth, or cling to the denial that protected the image of my son, my heart, or my survival. I had to choose. I can't believe it, I murmured, tears stinging my eyes. He wouldn't. He would, and he is, Henderson insisted. Listen to me. They talked about how they'd drug you. My head snapped up, my stomach turned. Drug me. Start tonight, at dinner. Something to make you seem disoriented. Disoriented for what? The evaluation, Henderson whispered. They have a doctor coming tomorrow morning. Dr. Evelyn Reed. She's crooked, Arthur. In their pocket, paid to say whatever they want. Dr. Reed, another player in their twisted game. They have a room ready in a facility. Henderson warned, his eyes filled with pity. A horrible place, Arthur. Once you're in, you'll never get out. Your rights will be gone. A wave of nausea washed over me. I felt exposed, vulnerable, utterly betrayed. The hope that had warmed my heart just minutes ago was now a cold, hard stone in my stomach. Just then, the sound of tires crunching on gravel echoed up the driveway. A sleek black sedan pulled up, music thumping from the speakers. Expensive. Aggressive. They're here, Henderson whispered. Go now. I'll try to distract them. But I couldn't move. I was frozen, rooted to the spot. Staring at the car. As the doors opened, Ethan stepped out. Tall and handsome, dressed in expensive clothes that looked too tight. A wide smile plastered on his face. He adjusted a heavy gold watch. Chloe followed, blonde hair perfectly styled, her eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses. She didn't even look at me yet. They looked like predators returning to the den. Dad! Ethan cried out, rushing towards me, his arms outstretched. You made it. We are so incredibly sorry we weren't here. He pulled me into a tight hug. The traffic, he said into my ear, was an absolute nightmare, and some idiot rear-ended us. The embrace felt cold, calculated. I smelled his expensive cologne. It made me want to gag. I felt the desperation in his grip. He wasn't hugging his father. He was securing an asset. Arthur, it's so good to see you, Chloe said. She kissed the air near my cheek, a gesture without contact. She didn't remove her sunglasses. You look tired. The flight must have been exhausting. Her voice was smooth, polished, like the steel of the house. Let's get you inside and comfortable, she said, already reaching for my suitcase. They flanked me, one on each side, guiding me towards the house. It felt less like a welcome and more like an abduction. I looked back at Mr. Henderson. He was standing nervously, watching us, a look of defeat on his face. I had a choice. I could run. I could scream. I could confront them right there, with the email clutched in my hand. But I knew, instinctively, that it would be a mistake. They were prepared for that. They would call me hysterical, confused, exactly what they needed me to be for their narrative. They held all the cards. They were masters of manipulation, and I was just a retired clerk from Ohio. No, if they wanted to play a game, I would play too. I had spent 40 years navigating government bureaucracy. I knew how to be patient. I knew how to pay attention to details. I knew how to read the fine print. I had to be smart. I had to fight back, but not with anger, with cunning. The choice was stark. Flee now and risk being captured and labeled incompetent, or walk into the trap and try to dismantle it from within. I chose to fight. I let my shoulders slump. I shuffled my feet, leaning heavily on Ethan, letting him bear my weight. I became the man they wanted me to be. I am a bit tired, I said, my voice weaker than before. I rubbed my temples. The flight was very long. Of course, Dad, Ethan said soothingly, his voice dripping with fake concern. We'll take good care of you. That's what family is for. As we stepped into the massive, sterile entryway, I clutched the crumpled email hidden deep in my pocket. The fight had just begun. The inside of the house was exactly as I imagined. Impersonal, cold, vast. Everything was white or gray, designed to impress, not welcome. It felt like walking into a high-end hotel lobby. Not a home. There were no photos of me. None of Mary. No trace of the life Ethan had come from. It was as if his past had been erased. As if I had been erased. Let me take your bag, Arthur, Chloe said, reaching for my suitcase again. Her persistence was unsettling. Her eyes fixed on the bag. My wallet, my phone, my return ticket. Everything I needed to escape was in there. No, I said sharply, pulling the bag closer. Her eyes widened slightly, surprised by my firmness. I quickly masked it, softening my tone, adding a slight tremor to my voice. I stumbled. I had my heart medications in there. A lie. My heart was fine, physically at least. I need to keep it close. You know how forgetful I am these days? I hated saying the words, hated playing their game, but it was necessary for survival. Chloe recovered quickly, her smile tight. Of course, we just want you to be comfortable. We wouldn't want you missing a dose. The implication hung in the air. A subtle threat disguised as concern. They wanted control of my medication. Control of me. A young woman in a gray uniform appeared silently in the hallway. Maria, I guessed. The housekeeper. She avoided eye contact. Kept her head down. She looked nervous. Chloe snapped her fingers. Maria, make sure Mr. Thompson's room is prepared. Maria nodded quickly and scurried away. The atmosphere in the house felt heavy, oppressive. They led me to a guest room on the first floor. It was luxurious. A massive bed, expensive sheets, a view of the sprawling city below. But I noticed the windows immediately. They didn't open fully, just a few inches at the top. Security windows, designed to keep people out, or in. And the door, I noted as they closed it. It had a heavy electronic panel on the outside, not a normal lock. A high-tech lock. Rest up, Dad, Ethan said. He patted my shoulder. The gesture felt patronizing. We'll have dinner later. We have so much to catch up on. He paused at the doorway. We have some ideas, he added, a smile not quite reaching his eyes, about how to make your life easier. Easier for whom? They closed the door. I waited. Whir! Click! The distinct, soft sound of the electronic lock engaging. I was a prisoner in my son's house. The realization that I was completely cut off sent a wave of panic through me. Locked door, security windows. They had anticipated resistance. My plan felt foolish now, dead before it started. I sat on the edge of the bed, my heart pounding in my chest. The reality of the situation crashed down on me. I pulled out the email, read it again. Proposed conservatee. Arthur James Thompson. How had it come to this? My own son. I thought back to Ethan's childhood. He was always ambitious, always wanting more. He resented our simple life, our quiet neighborhood, our rusty old Ford, but I never thought he was cruel. I never thought he was capable of this level of betrayal. Chloe, she had amplified his greed, given it a direction, a ruthless efficiency, and I was the easy solution to their financial problems. Their emergency fund. I had to get out. But how? I was locked in. I checked my phone. No signal. I moved around the room. Near the window. Near the door. Still nothing. They must have installed a signal jammer. They were meticulous. Organized in their cruelty. They had thought of everything. I paced the room, examining every corner. I needed edited, proof beyond the email. I needed to expose them. I checked the drawers. Empty. The closet. Empty. Nothing personal. Nothing revealing. Just sterile perfection. I needed to get out of this room. I needed to find their office. Their files. But first I needed to survive the night. Hours passed. The silence was suffocating. I thought about Mary. She would know what to do. She always knew what to do. But I was alone. I heard voices in the hallway. Muffled, Arguing? I pressed my ear against the heavy door. I could just make out Ethan's voice. Strained. Fearful. Marco called again. Chloe, he's not waiting until Friday. He wants the payment tonight. Chloe's voice was cold, sharp. He'll get his money when we get the conservatorship finalized tomorrow. The old man's assets will clear everything. Tomorrow isn't soon enough, Ethan hissed. Marco threatened me. Threatened us. You don't know what he's capable of. Calm down, Ethan, Chloe snapped. Everything is under control. Dr. Reed is coming at 9. Slattery has the paperwork ready. It's a done deal. She paused. Now go check on your father. It's time for dinner. And time for his medication. My blood ran cold. The plan was in motion. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. It helps our channel grow and bring more stories like this to light. It was that moment I knew I couldn't wait. I had to act fast. Finally, I heard the lock disengage. Click. Ethan opened the door. Dinner's ready? Dad, you must be starving. His smile was bright. Fake, but I saw the fear lingering in his eyes. The desperation. I followed him to the dining room. I felt like I was walking to my execution. The table was long, polished marble, set with expensive china and crystal glasses. Kezid was already seated, swirling a glass of red wine, a triumphant look on her face. She looked completely in control. They thought they had Dan. They thought I was trapped, helpless, ready for the slaughter. We're so glad you're here, Dad, Ethan said as we sat down. He poured me a glass of water. We've been genuinely worried about you. The performance began. Living all alone in that big house. Ethan continued, shaking his head sadly. It's not safe for a man your age. I managed just fine, I said mildly, keeping my voice even, slightly confused. But you've been forgetting things, haven't you? Chloe interjected. Her eyes locked onto mine, testing me. Forgetting things? I asked, blinking slowly. Ethan told me you missed paying your electricity bill last month, she said, her voice full of fake pity. The neighbors had to call you. The lights went out. A blatant lie. I had never missed a bill in my life. They were setting the stage for Dr. Reed, for the conservatorship. I might be getting a little forgetful, I conceded, playing along. I looked down at my hands, letting them tremble slightly. It happens at my age, I suppose. I felt sick saying it, but I had to make them believe they were in control. Ethan smiled, a predatory glint in his eyes that I had never seen before. It chilled me to the bone. Exactly, he said, leaning forward. That's why we want to help. We want to make sure you're taken care of, that your assets are protected from me, for them, to pay off Marco. Maria appeared silently from the kitchen. She served a rich, creamy soup, lobster bisque. She kept her eyes down. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed the bowl in front of me. I watched Ethan and Chloe carefully. They ate their soup without hesitation. Maybe the drugs weren't in the soup. I ate the soup. It was delicious. But I remained vigilant. Every bite felt like a risk. We spoke with our lawyer today, Dad, Ethan said casually. David Slattery, brilliant guy. He specializes in elder law. Elder law? I asked, feigning ignorance. He helps families navigate the complexities of aging, Chloe explained smoothly, making sure everything is in order. She smiled sweetly. We just want to make sure your wishes are respected. Please. Every word a lie. The main course was served. Roast chicken and vegetables beautifully arranged. The aroma was incredible. Chloe was talking animatedly. A charity event they attended. Her voice loud and polished, bragging about the people they knew, the money they raised. As she spoke, her hand moved subtly. I watched her carefully. I had spent a lifetime observing details, small things others missed. This was it. She wore a large, ornate ring on her right hand, a cocktail ring. Gaudy, expensive-looking, her thumb pressed the top of the ring. A small catch, the setting tilted open, a tiny, almost invisible vial, hidden within the setting. She tilted her hand over my plate. A fine white powder dusted the chicken. She thought I wasn't looking. She was distracted by her own monologue, arrogant in her belief that I was too slow, too old, too stupid to notice. My heart leaped into my throat. They were drugging me, right in front of my eyes, with a device straight out of a spy movie. The audacity was staggering. The drug, it'd make me confused, pliable, easy to manipulate. It would ensure Dr. Reed found me incompetent tomorrow morning. I was walking a tightrope. I needed to avoid the drugged food without revealing my awareness. It was a dangerous performance. One wrong move, and I would be lost. I had to think fast. I needed a distraction. Something sudden. Something that would pull their attention away from the table. "Oh my goodness," I exclaimed, pointing towards the large window overlooking the city lights, my voice louder than it had been all day. "What? What is it?" Ethan asked, startled. "Is that a coyote?" I said, leaning forward, squinting. "Right there in the yard? It looks huge." They both turned to look, startled. Ethan even stood up slightly to get a better view. Chloe turned her whole body towards the window. "A coyote? Here?" Chloe asked, sounding annoyed. "We have electric fences." "It jumped it," I insisted. "Look." In that split second, fueled by adrenaline and terror, I switched the plates. My hands were shaking, but I managed to do it smoothly, quickly. The plates were identical, the portions almost the same. They turned back, seeing nothing. "Must have been a shadow," I said, picking up my fork. My heart hammered against my ribs. I prayed they didn't notice the slight rearrangement of the food. The chicken leg pointing the wrong way. "You seem jumpy, Arthur," Chloe said, narrowing her eyes. She looked at her plate, then back at me. "Did she notice?" My breath caught in my throat. I held her gaze, keeping my expression blank, mildly confused. "Just excited to be here," I replied. I took a bite of the undrugged chicken from her plate. It tasted like ash in my mouth. "This is delicious, Chloe," I said, smiling weakly. "You are a wonderful cook." She relaxed slightly, preening at the compliment. Her arrogance was her weakness. "Thank you, Arthur," she said, picking up her fork. I watched as Chloe ate the drugged food, bite by bite. I felt a grim satisfaction, mixed with a profound, agonizing sadness. This was the woman my son had married. This was what my family had become, a viper's nest of greed and deceit. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I pushed the food around my plate, my appetite gone. I watched Chloe closely, waiting for the drug to take effect. As the dinner progressed, I noticed the change. Subtle at first, Chloe became sluggish. Her speech started to slur slightly. She kept blinking, as if trying to focus. Her movements became clumsy. She knocked over her wine glass. The red liquid spread across the white marble like blood. "Oh dear," she murmured, rubbing her temples. She didn't even try to clean it up. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, looking at her. "I'm feeling quite tired," she said, her voice thick. "I think the wine went straight to my head. I must be more exhausted than I thought." Ethan looked confused. "Tired? But you barely had one glass, and you were fine a minute ago." He then looked at me. I was alert, watching them both, keeping my expression mildly pleasant, perhaps a little concerned. "Are you all right, dear?" I asked Chloe. Ethan's confusion turned to suspicion. His eyes narrowed. He looked at the plates. We had both finished our meals. The evidence was gone. "What's wrong with her?" he demanded, his voice rising, the concern shifting towards panic. "The evaluation tomorrow morning. Dr. Reed, David Slattery. It depended on Chloe being sharp, manipulative, convincing. She was the mastermind."
"I don't know," I said calmly. "Maybe the chicken was too rich, or maybe it's the stress." "The stress?" Ethan scoffed. "The fender bender this afternoon," I reminded him gently. "And your financial worries." His eyes widened in alarm. Chloe slumped in her chair, her eyes closing, barely conscious. Ethan panicked. He realized something was terribly wrong, and he was starting to realize I knew more than I was letting on. He rushed to her side, shaking her shoulder. "Chloe, wake up!" She didn't respond. Her head lolled to the side. "Chloe," he yelled, his voice frantic. "You have the meeting with David in the morning. We need to finalize the strategy.
We need to prepare for Dr. Reed. He was losing control. The facade was cracking. He turned to me, his face contorted with rage and confusion. The mask of the loving sun completely gone. What did you do to her? He snarled. Me? I said, standing up slowly. I let the mask drop. The facade of the confused old man vanished. My voice was no longer weak or confused. It was cold and hard, filled with the strength of a lifetime of integrity. I didn't do anything, Ethan, I said, my voice steady. I'm just a confused old man, remember? Incapable of managing my own affairs. He realized then, the coyote, the distraction. The switched plates. The realization dawned on his face, slow and horrifying. His eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed with a chilling fury. You, he stammered. You knew the whole time. I know everything, Ethan, I said. I pulled the crumpled email from my pocket. I threw it on the table. It landed next to the spilled wine. I know about the conservatorship, I said, my voice rising. I know about the debt. I know about Marco. His face turned pale. Marco? I know you want to steal my house, I continued. Relentless. The house your mother and I built with our own hands. He lunged at me, grabbing my shirt. His face was inches from mine, his breath hot and smelling of wine. You have no idea what you're talking about, he screamed, spittle flying from his mouth. We're trying to help you. You're sick. You're delusional. Even now caught in the act. He tried to gaslight me, to make me doubt my own sanity. Help me by locking me up, I shouted back, fueled by a rage I didn't know I possessed. By drugging me, by stealing the little I've left, I pushed him away, surprised by my own strength. The years of resentment and betrayal fueled my resistance. We need to get those papers signed tonight, he snarled. He rushed to a nearby cabinet, pulled out a stack of documents. Thick, heavy, the finalized conservatorship agreement. The death warrant for my freedom. The court date is tomorrow, he said, his voice desperate. Dr. Reed is coming at 9. You're going to sign them, one way or another. He thrust the papers at me. The legalized theft of my life. I will never sign those, I said, backing away. Yes, you will, he said, advancing on me. He was desperate now. His plan falling apart. Chloe was unconscious, his accomplice incapacitated. He was alone, facing the consequences of his actions. He grabbed my arm, trying to force the pen into my hand. Sign it, old man. I struggled against him. He was younger, stronger, but I was fighting for my life, for Mary's memory, for the principle that what they were doing was wrong, monstrous. The physical confrontation with my own son was the ultimate betrayal. Fighting back against him felt unnatural, painful, but necessary. In the struggle, I saw it, sitting on the dining table. His phone, it must have all the evidence. The communications with David Slattery, the financial records, the proof of their desperation, the contact information for Dr. Reed, the text from Marco, everything. I lunged for the phone. I grabbed it and pocketed it. Give me my phone! He yelled, realizing what I had done. He let go of my arm and reached for my pocket. No, I said, backing towards the door, to the hallway. It's over. Ethan, it's all over. He blocked my way, his face red with fury. He was no longer my son. He was a stranger, a predator. It's not over until I say it's over, he screamed. He took a deep breath, his voice dripping with entitlement. You owe me this. You owe me this life. The sheer narcissism of his words took my breath away. I owe you this, I whispered. The pain in my chest unbearable. Yes, he shouted, gesturing wildly around the opulent room. I worked hard for this. I built this, and I'm not going to lose it because of you. Lose it? I asked, incredulous. Marco is calling in the loan, he hissed, his voice trembling with fear. We have 48 hours. If we don't pay, we lose everything. Everything, he pointed a shaking finger at me. I'm not going to lose it because of you and your pathetic little savings, your pathetic little life. The contempt in his voice was staggering. I gave you everything, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. My love, my support, my life. I thought about the sacrifices, The overtime, the weekends spent working. I worked 40 years to give you the opportunities I never had. I continued. I saved every penny so you could go to college, so you could have a better life. And this is how you repay me. Love doesn't pay the bills, Dad, he spat. Money does. And I need money. Now. He was cornered. His facade crumbled, revealing the ugly greed underneath. There was nothing left of the boy I raised. I have the email, Ethan, I said. And I have your phone. The truth will come out. He stared at me, breathing heavily. He looked at Chloe, slumped in the chair, then back at me. I saw the calculation in his eyes, weighing his options. Okay, Dad, he said, his voice low and wheedling. Changing tactics instantly, the manipulator resurfacing. We can make a deal, he said, holding up his hands in surrender. We can share the money. 50-50. Sell the house, he continued, the words rushing out. Split the savings. No one needs to know about the conservatorship. We can just say, you decided to help us out. A gift, even now, caught red-handed. He was trying to negotiate. He had no remorse. No shame. He truly believed he was entitled to my life's work. You still don't get it, do you? I whispered, the grief washing over me, heavy and suffocating. Get what? He asked, genuinely confused. It's not about the money, I said, tears streaming down my face. It never was. It's about the betrayal. I gestured around the cold, empty room. It's about the fact that you were willing to lock me away, to erase me, for this. I looked him in the eyes, searching for any trace of the boy I loved. You're my son, Ethan, I choked out. My son? I wasn't crying for myself. I was crying for the little boy I'd lost. The boy who had been consumed by greed and ambition, twisted into this unrecognizable monster. His expression hardened. The momentary plea vanished, replaced by a chilling contempt. The mask fell away completely, revealing the true face of my son. You're weak, he spat. You always were. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Content with your small life, he continued, his voice venomous. Your small house. Your small dreams. You never understood ambition. I wanted more, and I deserve more. He took a step closer, his voice low and menacing, and then he delivered the final blow. The words designed to break me. You should have died when Mom did. The words hit me harder than any physical blow. The final, ultimate betrayal. The shattering of any remaining illusion I had about my son. The emotional devastation was paralyzing. The cruelty was intentional. It was the moment my heart broke completely. Just then, the doorbell rang. The deep chime echoed through the house. Sharp and sudden, we both froze. Who is that? Ethan hissed, panic flashing in his eyes. I knew who it was. Mr. Henderson. He must have seen the confrontation escalating. He must have called for help. The doorbell rang again, followed by a loud, authoritative knocking. Los Angeles Police Department. Open the door. Ethan's face turned ashen, the color draining from his cheeks. He looked around frantically, like a trapped animal seeking escape. There was nowhere to run. I walked to the door, my legs shaking, but my resolve firm. I opened it. 2 police officers stood there, a man and a woman, their faces grim. Robert Henderson was behind them, looking worried and relieved at the same time. Officer Miller, the male officer said, showing his badge. We received a call about a disturbance. Officer, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, though my heart was shattered. I need to report a crime. I took a deep breath. My son and his wife tried to drug me, imprison me, and steal my life savings. They are attempting to force me into an illegal conservatorship. I handed Officer Miller the crumpled email and Ethan's phone. The proof is all here, I said. The officers stepped inside. They took in the scene, the opulent surroundings, the overturned documents on the table. Chloe slumped unconscious in the chair, and Ethan, standing frozen in the middle of the room, his face a mask of disbelief and defeat. Sir, Officer Miller said, stepping towards Ethan. What is going on here? He's confused, Ethan stammered, the lies coming automatically. He's old. He doesn't know what he's saying. And your wife? The female officer, Officer Chen, asked, checking Chloe's pulse. Is she confused too? She looked at her partner. Call an ambulance. Officer Miller looked at the email, then at Ethan's phone, which was ringing. The caller ID flashed. Marco. Ethan Thompson. Officer Miller asked, his voice cold. Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at me, his eyes filled not with remorse, but with hatred. Even in defeat, he blamed me for his downfall. The officers moved quickly. They handcuffed Ethan, reading him his rights. He didn't struggle. He didn't protest. The fight had gone out of him, replaced by the crushing weight of reality. An ambulance arrived for Chloe. She was taken to the hospital, still unconscious. She was later arrested. The toxicology report confirmed the presence of a powerful sedative in her system. The police found the ring and the vial inside it. I watched as they led my son away. He walked, his head down, the expensive suit wrinkled, the facade finally and completely destroyed. As the police car pulled away, the flashing lights disappearing down the driveway, I stood alone in the silent house, the fortress of glass and steel, built on lies and deceit. Mr. Henderson came up to me, put a comforting hand on my shoulder. Are you all right, Arthur? I nodded, unable to speak. I was alive. I was safe. But I felt broken. The next few days were a blur. Police statements, legal consultations, media frenzy. The story caught the public's attention. The wealthy, glamorous couple trying to institutionalize the father for modest savings. Ethan and Chloe became symbols of greed and entitlement. The dark underbelly of the American dream exposed. Their financial empire collapsed almost overnight. The evidence on Ethan's phone was damning. David Slattery, the lawyer, was disbarred. Dr. Evelyn Reed lost her medical license. Both faced conspiracy charges. The banks foreclosed on the house. The cars were repossessed. Their assets were frozen. They faced years in prison for fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse, and false imprisonment. Marco's organization was also investigated, thanks to the information on the phone. The ripples of their greed spread far and wide. I returned to Ohio, to my quiet house, my familiar routine. The house felt emptier now, haunted by the ghost of the son I thought I knew. The silence heavier with the weight of my grief. I sat in my favorite chair, the wooden bird I had carved still in my hand. I had forgotten to give it to them. I looked at a photo of Ethan as a child, his innocent smile beaming at me, holding a fishing rod, his eyes full of love. Where had that boy gone? Was he ever really there? The victory was hollow. I had won the battle, but I had lost my family. I had saved my life, but I had shattered my heart. I realized then that the true meaning of family wasn't just about blood. It was about love, trust, respect. Mr. Henderson and I became good friends. We talked on the phone every week, bound by the shared trauma of that night. He was more family to me than my own son had been in years. Sometimes the hardest choice is the one we make to protect ourselves from the ones we avoid the most. When they are no longer capable of loving us back, when they become the monsters we fear. I placed the wooden bird on the windowsill, facing the rising sun, a reminder of the hope I had carried, the betrayal I had faced, and the resilience I had found within myself. Life would go on. It would be quieter, sadder, but it would be mine. And in the silence of my small home, surrounded by the memories of a life built on honesty and hard work, I finally found a fragile, hard-won peace. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.